Hello and welcome to this very special edition of Porter County Perspective. It's special because it's hosted by me, WDSO's own Emily Fletcher. And today we're going to be talking to Heather Hahn Sullivan of the Dunes Learning Center. Thank you for coming in today, Heather, and it's great to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
First, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and your role at the Dunes Learning Center?
Sure. So I am delighted to be the new executive director at Dunes Learning Center. I actually started at Dunes Learning Center about 5 years ago as the director of development and marketing. But my history with the organization actually goes back a lot further. I was one of the first student participants to visit. So we're actually 25 years old this year, and I came with my high school in 1999.
Wow,
so
that's really cool.
The first year that it opened, I was there with my environmental science class. And then I came back as an intern after college in 2004 and 2005. And Dunes Learning Center is really where I got my start in environmental nonprofits. So after working there, I went on to another nature center in Cincinnati, then moved on to natural history museums in Philadelphia and Chicago, and then eventually made my way back home. So I'm delighted to come full circle and be here as the new executive director.
When did you start your newest position?
So I started November 1st,
Okay.
and our former director, Jeff Benson, was there for about 10 years, did a wonderful job, and I was delighted to work with him and have a nice, smooth transition.
Well, we're happy to have you back in Chesterton. For listeners who aren't familiar, can you describe what the Dunes Learning Center is and why it's an important resource for our community?
Absolutely. So Dunes Learning Center, we are the education partner of Indiana Dunes National Park. And so we're located inside the park. We're on inside Indiana Dunes National Park, and we primarily serve as a location for school field trips. So we have 10 cabins and our main dining hall, multi-purpose space. So school groups come and spend the night at Dunes Learning Center to really get to experience the national park. So we do that for about 9 months of the year. And then in the summertime, we have open enrollment summer camps. So week-long summer camps for up to 70 kids.
Very cool. For those who are not familiar, where is the Dunes Learning Center located?
Sure. So we're in Porter. We are off of Howe Road, so sort of the backside of Shellburg Farm. We actually hike kids from our center over to Shellburg Farm and Bailey Homestead all the time. But we're located on the historic grounds of Camp Goodfellow. So back in the 1940s, U.S. Steel built a summer camp for the children of their employees. It was called the Goodfellow, or I guess the kids were in the Goodfellow Club. And so then they had this summer camp in the wilds of Chesterton, and they would bring kids out from Gary to experience nature and what would eventually become the national park. So it's a beautiful historic place. We don't use really the historic footprint of the camp as much, but we have this beautiful modern cabins. Some people say it's, the Taj Mahal of summer camp because we have air conditioning, we have hot water. So and we use our cabins year round. So we have school groups spending the night even in the wintertime.
That sounds awesome. I've never been to a cabin like that. My Girl Scout camp was always bare bones. So
yes, no, we're appreciate the comforts.
Can you tell us what the Dunes Learning Center's mission is and how the center goes about following through with that mission?
Sure. So our mission is to inspire lasting curiosity and stewardship with nature. I always like to say we are helping to create the stewards of tomorrow. So many kids today don't have the chance to hike and explore outside. Not even hike, just be outside. Kids spend, I think the latest statistic I saw was about 8 hours a day in front of a screen and 7 minutes outdoors in unstructured play for an average child. And that's terrifying. If kids aren't ever outdoors, how will they appreciate it? How will they learn to love it? How will they want to take care of it? And so spending time outdoors is the first step. And we do that every single day, getting kids outside to learn about nature, to appreciate it, and then hopefully to take care of it.
I love that. When did the National Lakeshore become a national park, and can you describe that process to us?
So the National Lakeshore became a national park in 2019, and we kind of say it's like joining the varsity league.
For sure.
As a lakeshore, we were still part of the national park system, still have a lot of the same benefits and responsibilities, but it's just a name change. So the process, basically, it takes an act of Congress, and our name change came buried in a budget bill. So it's been something that has been in the works for a long time, and a lot of people have advocated for it over the years. And moving up to the varsity league gives a little more recognition. It's certainly brought a lot more tourism to the area. There have definitely been more visitors since we became a national park.
The Learning Center's website describes it as a classroom without walls. Can you go a little further into depth about that description meaning?
Sure. So we teach outdoors. The best way for kids to learn about nature is in nature. So we are always taking kids to various parts of the national park. Kind of our flagship program is to do a walk-through time at Bailey Homestead and Shellberg Farm. And so during that time, kids encounter a Potawatomi, a French fur trader, a Swedish farmer, as well as someone from the early 1900s who's acting as a land planner and talks about land use over time. So they learn about all those different things. And then the next day, they get to hike through Coles Bog. And so exploring all these different areas in the national park really is, this is their classroom when they're with us, is the national park, and they get to explore and learn. Sometimes it's a little wet, sometimes it's a little snowy, but there's no bad weather, just bad clothing.
Sure.
And we are happy to help any students who come who don't have the right clothing. We've got plenty of loaner boots and coats and whatever they need.
That's awesome. If someone from out of town was planning their first visit to the Indiana Dunes National Park, what would you be most excited for them to see?
Definitely Lake Michigan. All the time we have kids who've never seen Lake Michigan. Something we encounter often of kids who live even nearby, and they hike up to the top of the dune the first time and look out over the lake and say, "Oh my gosh, did you hike us all the way to the ocean?" No, it's just Lake Michigan. But that's running down a sand dune to the lake is the best part of the dunes for me. But I would say don't ignore some of the other parts. There are lots of beautiful historic woodlands. The historic area around Bailey Homestead and Shellberg Farm is beautiful as well.
One of my favorite parts that goes overlooked is Pinhook Bog.
Oh, I love Pinhook.
Pinhook Bog is so cool. Just nowhere else is like that in the area.
Carnivorous plants. You had me at carnivorous plants. So absolutely.
What would you say makes the Indiana Dunes National Park particularly unique?
So we're the birthplace of plant ecology and plant succession. And so in the early 1900s, Henry Chandler Coles from the University of Chicago came out and studied succession in the dunes. And so you can see how the land transitions over time from bare sand at the edge of the lake to the marram grass that takes root to the rest of the dunes where there's other grasses and trees, the oak savanna, and then all the way to the eastern deciduous forest and the wetland. So seeing how plants change over time, you can hike all the way through these different ecosystems in just, a 2 or 3 hour hike. And that's amazing. No, there are very few places where you can see that, and especially in such short order. So that makes us really unique, and that so many people over time have made the effort to preserve this area. It makes it really special.
I also think it's really unique that the national park is basically surrounded by cities. So it's just very close for all of us. You don't have to drive, hours to get back into very secluded nature and just really be able to forget about the city behind you.
Absolutely. So actually, the national park, when people were advocating for Indiana Dunes to become a national, at the time, lakeshore, it was called one of the first urban national parks, because people from Chicago could ride the train out here for a day trip and hop off the train and be right in the dunes and explore the lake, go hiking. And I mean, at the time, the big national parks were, Yellowstone out in the middle of nowhere and hard to get to. And Indiana Dunes has always been much more accessible, which makes it really cool. And we've also learned to coexist with all of the industry that's around us. We're definitely a patchwork of locations, but, the plants and animals have adapted and coexist pretty peacefully overall.
How big is the Indiana Dunes National Park?
So it runs for about 20 miles along the southern shore of Lake Michigan, and overall covers about 15,000 acres, but definitely a patchwork. And there are some outlying areas like Pinhook Bog, but they're of such important ecological significance that they absolutely deserve to be part of this park.
How does the Dunes Learning Center engage in community outreach?
Sure. So, we work with schools primarily throughout the school year. And so we're working with teachers and administrators, but we also offer public programs throughout the summertime for kids. So open enrollment summer camps. And we also have lots of adult workshops and family programs. So we have a few things coming up in the next couple of weeks. On April 15th, we're offering a forest bathing workshop, which don't get weirded out, but it's about communing with nature. It's not about getting naked. So, and then on May 20th, we're doing a tour de parc. So, like the Tour de France, we're going to explore the park by bike. So some of our staff will be leading a group around throughout the national park. We have a great bike trail system, and it's a wonderful way to explore the park.
How would one register to participate in those programs?
Sure. So all the information's on our website, duneslearningcenter.org. And you can go directly to the events page, duneslearningcenter.org/events, for all the information on how to register. Registration is limited. We can't have massive groups of people, but we would love to see everyone. So you can sign up on our website, and there's lots of information. You can also join our email list. There's a link in the sidebar to join our email list, and we also publish all of our events online on social media, so Facebook and Instagram.
Makes it easy. Are there any scholarships available for those who might be interested, but the cost would be prohibitive? And are there any of these classes available as webinars for those who would be unable to attend in person?
Sure. So we do offer scholarships. There's information on the website on the events page about how to apply for a scholarship. Most of these are pretty reasonable. Our workshops vary from, $10 to $30 per person. So not too crazy, but we do also offer scholarships. We don't have any webinars scheduled right now. We did a lot of webinars back in the earlier days of the pandemic, and I'm sure we'll have more coming up in the future. In the summertime, it's so nice outside, though. Get outside, and we'll do the things online later.
Do you offer educational programs for all ages? What types of programs are available for teenagers and children?
Sure. So during the summertime, we have summer camps for ages 5 to 17. So for the little guys, we've got Shellburg Farm Camp for 5 and 6-year-olds, and then also 7 and 8-year-olds. And then our overnight camps start at age 9. So for 9 to 13-year-olds, we have Dunes Discovery Camp. And for teenagers, we offer Dunes Adventure Camp. So all that information's on our website. And then throughout the school year, we also offer some family programs, which are also listed online.
Can you describe the Indiana Dunes Learning Center's campus within the Indiana Dunes National Park?
Sure. So we have 10 cabins. Each cabin sleeps 8 people. So there's 4 sets of bunk beds, a separate shower room, separate toilet room, a couple of sinks. And so they're nice cabins. Like I said, hot water, air conditioning, if you've been outside all day, and it's the middle of July, you want to rest easy.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes for a better outdoor experience the next day. So the cabins aren't huge, but as I said, we don't spend a lot of time in there. We also have our main dining hall, Cole's Lodge, which is a multi-purpose space. So we'll use that for indoor programs, and all of our meals, of course. All our meals are served family style, which is something that a lot of kids don't get all the time. So something they really enjoy. We also have several different outdoor learning spaces. We have a garden, a raised bed container garden. We have some beehives that are located nearby. We have a place called Sandamander's Cove, which is our nature play zone, and our campfire ring. So everybody loves s'mores. Everybody loves campfires.
Yep.
So
Yep.
this is an important part of the Dunes Learning Center experience. And of course, we hike throughout the national park. So from our campus, we can easily hike to Bailey Homestead. We can hike down to the Little Calumet River. We do water studies. We can hike up to Minoki Prairie. So lots of places to explore.
Very cool. Why would you encourage parents to send their children to the Dunes Learning Center's summer and day camps?
It's a great experience. Kids have a wonderful time. And it's a good way to unplug and enjoy, kind of the simple pleasures of summer. I love the experience my kids attend, and it's just good, clean fun.
About how many kids attend these camps each summer? And are they all local to the area, or do some travel from further away to experience the national park?
So each summer we have about 400 kids spread across all of our different camps. For each week of camp, we can have up to 70 kids in the cabins. And we do get kids from all over. So definitely a lot of local kids, but Chicago, lots of kids come from Chicago. And we definitely have some from further away. So perhaps their grandparents live here in the dunes. And so we had some from Arizona and Colorado. And I want to say we even had one year, a few years ago, we had someone from Spain who, was coming to visit and wanted to have an experience. So it's a great way to explore.
Yeah. What do you feel gives campers a truly unique experience that they could only get at the Indiana Dunes Learning Center's summer camps?
So overall, I think it's the dunes themselves. They get to explore. So we spend a day hiking the dunes. We spend another day splashing in Lake Michigan. They get to explore the woods, the trails. And overall, I mean, not many kids get to spend a week inside a national park. And so that in and of itself, I think that's the best thing. But from a social and emotional perspective, our staff is wonderful. And, we make sure that kids aren't homesick. We make sure they're having fun. We've got the schedule of s'mores and night hikes and ice cream socials down. And it's a great place to spend a week if you're a kid the time. It really
does sound like a great time.
Oh, yeah. We get, evaluations from the kids, and they say, this was the best week of my life. And I'm like, that's amazing.
Can you think of any facts about the Indiana Dunes National Park that would surprise listeners?
Sure. So, we've talked about carnivorous plants, a pinhook bog, but did you know that we actually have more species of orchids than there are in Hawaii?
I would have never known that.
I know. We have native cacti, the prickly pear. And so overall, there are about, I want to say the number's 423 units in the National Park Service system. So 423 parks of different types.
Okay.
And we are, I want to say we're in the top 5 for the most biodiverse.
That's just incredible. And I know that there's a lot of, there's at least a couple endangered species that are only located within the national park.
Yes. And we're also a flyway, and so we get a lot of migratory birds.
Oh, right.
The Indiana Dunes Birding Festival is coming up in a couple of weeks, too, I think in May. And it's a great time to explore all the different birds that pass through here.
Yeah. Throughout the history of the Indiana Dunes, many people and groups have been integral in its assured preservation. Can you name a few of these people vital to the process?
Sure, there have been devoted people for the dunes for a long time. Dunes Learning Center was founded by three people. Lee Botts, who was a well-known local environmentalist, also did a lot of work on the Great Lakes, a college professor, Mark Rushkin, and the superintendent of the dunes at the time, Dale Enquist. So our three founders were wonderful in their vision to create a learning center, a place for kids to come and explore the dunes. But the park itself has had so many people over the years. Dorothy Buell, Beth Sheehan, the Charlotte and Herb Reed, so many people and groups like Save the Dunes, and some of the other organizations that have worked to make this place as sustainable as it is. So there have definitely been a lot of people over the years, and we're grateful to all of them, and for those who keep working to make this place last for the future.
That is going to wrap things up for this week's edition of the Porter County Perspective. I've been WDSO's Emily Fletcher, and we've been talking to Heather Hahn Sullivan of the Dunes Learning Center. Thank you again for coming in today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.